Welcome back to the channel, everyone. My name is Nick. For those that are new to the channel, hopefully by the end of this video, you do become a subscriber. So let's dive on in. Let's go back to March 2nd. We're talking about just about 24 hours ago. And just looking across the board at some of these prices. Bitcoin 94,000 plus, Ethereum 2,500 plus, XRP almost hitting $3, Solana 178 bucks. ADA 113 bucks. Like, market was looking pretty good, right? Yeah, this is the current outlook that we are looking at right now. Talk about volatility. Last 24 hours, Bitcoin down 10+%, sitting at 83K. Ethereum down 15+%, sitting at about almost $2,000. XRP down about almost 20%, sitting at $2 and like almost 30 cents. Solana down almost 20%, sitting at $136. ADA down 20, almost 6%, sitting at almost 78 cents. Guys, this is just insane. Look at the losses across the board here. Now, what caused all of this? Well, number one, what caused the original spike? By the way, this is what the chart looks like for Bitcoin on CoinMarketCap in the last 7 days. Here we have the announcement from the Trump team, aka this one. I will create a US crypto reserve of XRP, Solana, and ADA. This is going to make the US the crypto capital of the world. Again, March 2nd, 10:36 a.m. Here we have, like around 10:35 a.m., the big push to the upside. Then, by 9 a.m., earlier yesterday, we crash. Why? What was the big thing that crashed the market? Well, we're going to talk about that here in this video, but let's actually address a few things happening in this space. Number one, let's look at the fear and greed index. Again, this has been shuffling a little bit. In fact, if we go back to the last 30 days, look at that nice little spike up to almost 40. Almost getting back into neutral territory, still in fearful levels. This is what the last 1 year looks like. You can see that big spike followed by the big drop. It's kind of insane, right? Like, it's kind of insane to see this much volatility. Is it normal? That's the big question. Is this volatility normal? Yeah. In a bull market, this is normal. I'm just going to be honest with you guys. It is. The big question is, are we on a path to recovery, or was that just one big dead cat bounce? This is what Bitcoin looks like right now, trying to flip major resistance. We already have that significant liquidity wick, the nice big pump, right? I mean, this was a huge recovery on Bitcoin's end. If we think about this, right? This was a 21% jump to the upside, followed by a roughly 13.24% drop to the downside. And the issue is Bitcoin dominance being so high, well, it just completely kills all momentum that any altcoin, including XRP, did have in it. Now, what am I watching for right now? What is the big thing that we should be focused on? It's the structure. You guys have heard me, preach the structure many times on this channel. And it's because we already have this significant low. We lose this, and the structure for Bitcoin is extremely bearish. I mean, we're talking about sub 70K being the next big target, in my opinion. This is why we want to see a recovery from, this area, these lows down here in the CME gap. The big thing is maintaining this trend line. This is a macro trend line that we want to actually hold. We're going to be watching this over the next couple of days. The weekly candle close is definitely going to be very important because, again, we didn't even have a strong weekly candle close. That did also include that pump. We could see where this weekly candle actually topped out on. It's trying to flip that support zone, going back to like January 6th, January 13th. We have yet to actually flip that. It's acting as resistance right now, and that's why we are selling off here as well. Now, the big thing that I'm watching for is just a weekly close above, this wick. That's it. That's all I'm looking for here. I want this structure to maintain bullish on the lower time frames, but also on the higher time frames. I'm definitely fully focused on what's happening here. Overall, is there anything to be concerned about with Bitcoin's current price chart? Not exactly, not until we lose this low. Once we lose that low, that's when we get concerned. But outside of this, XRP, this did have that breakout. Listen, we did have, a higher high confirmed on the daily. Now we look, by the way, failed breakout. This is basically a fake out. We already have, this was basically a confirmed breakout, technically going off of a daily candle close. But looking at this on like the 3-day, you could see that this was just one significant wick to the upside. What's crazy is look at this thing on the 3-day. Massive wick to the downside, followed by a significant wick to the upside. Failed breakout on the 3-day chart. Now, what am I watching here? Well, ultimately, I want to see these lows hold. I want to have a higher low scenario here for XRP as well. So far, it kind of looks like we're building some support here. I would like for us to maintain this around like $2 and almost 18 cents. But mainly, I'm looking at the wicks, right? That's pretty much it. I'm looking at the wicks. I don't want to see us create a lower low going off of these liquidity wicks from the 27th or even from the 3rd. So far, again, nothing too significant on the XRP price chart. Is there anything to be concerned about? No, not exactly. Not until we lose this low. Again, it's the same exact story with Bitcoin. We're just looking at structure-wise. We don't have to complicate anything. We don't have to, overthink anything. We're just looking at structure. But outside of that, 3 charts that I am going to be watching for this entire week is the S&P, the NASDAQ, and the Dow. So if we really look at what's going on here, it's very similar to Bitcoin as well. We want to see these lows hold. We want to continue to create a higher low scenario here on the S&P, on the NASDAQ, and even on the Dow. The NASDAQ already lost that low from January, but we do have this low going all the way back to the middle of November that so far has held. We want to maintain this overall range. We don't want to lose this range because then we're talking about sub 20K on the NASDAQ. That could stir a lot of problems for stocks across the board, which obviously will bleed into crypto. Outside of the NASDAQ and the S&P 500, the Dow Jones. Again, they are showing us a slight loss of these lows in terms of a daily candle close. But if you look at this on, say for so like the weekly, things do not look good here. On the weekly is when we really start to worry. So in about 3 days, 19 hours from the time that I'm recording this, it's like less than almost 3 days. On the 3-day, we want to have a close above this line here. I'm not too concerned about us closing below this line exactly because, again, we're just kind of going off of where the daily support is, which is like right around this line, around like 58, 56. But mainly, again, we're kind of looking at this and we already have a little bit of structure to go off of. We have the lows back here from the end of October, followed by the lows from January. And this is where we really kind of look and see, are we going to repeat the same pattern where we have this extremely bearish price action, followed by, a big move to the upside? We've so far been repeating that pattern. That's what I'm looking at with the S&P 500 right now. We already have two bearish candles here, very similar to back here. Are the next candles going to be bullish, aka the one that we're currently trading in? In 3 days, and roughly like, 19 hours, 15 hours, doesn't really matter, right? Just towards the end of the week, we should know what's going to happen here for the S&P 500. We don't have enough price data to go off of. In terms of the pattern, it looks as though it's breaking. But I'm definitely going to keep a close eye out on this chart for the next few days because, again, we want to see bullish structure form on all time frames, like on the 3-day, for an example. This is the same exact pattern that we have right now for the 3-day. Again, you can see these lows holding, followed by, higher lows. We want to see higher lows here as well in March. And outside of that, the Dow Jones, very similar pattern here. We look at this thing on the 3-day. We do have those lows. It's slightly higher lows going off of the October lows as well. We could see that here. And now we're looking at, are we going to maintain these lows up here? Are we going to have, a strong candle close here on the 3-day, which ends in about 1 hour and almost like 19 hours, or 1 day and 19 hours, sorry. So are we going to have that significant low hold? That's the big question. And by the way, the flip here in terms of creating a higher high going back to like November 8th, that's actually significantly closer. And we could see that acting as resistance here, just like we did see it back in November before we finally broke out towards the end of November, which also did allow crypto to pump heavily. But all of this negative price action is caused by what Trump is doing. So what we are hearing from the Trump team is tariffs, tariffs, tariffs. Tariffs cause panic in the market. People look at tariffs as a negative thing because what do tariffs do? They cause geopolitical tension, which leads to economic, crises. So this is where a lot of people are kind of worried. We actually have here what just happened. The Dow just went from being up to 300 plus points at the open to falling as much as negative 1,100 points in hours. Between 10 a.m. and 3:30 p.m., the S&P 500 erased a whopping 1.5 trillion in market cap. Here's exactly what you need to know. A timeline of what happened. The S&P 500 opened 30 points higher in what appeared to be a continuation of Friday's move. Then at 1 p.m., selling pressure began ahead of Trump's investment announcement. By 3:40 p.m., the index had lost 1.5 trillion from its high. You got to remember, right? People are not dumb. There's a lot of traders out there. There's a lot of people that are in stocks. They know the sell the news hype, right? And so far around Trump, there's always been a big announcement that leads to a sell the news event. Down here, we have the investment announcement began on a strong note with TSM announcing a $100 billion investment in the U.S., 5 facilities in Arizona, creates thousands of jobs, brings TSM's total U.S. investment to $165 billion, creates hundreds of billions of dollars of economic activity. Sounds great, right? However, markets began selling off as President Trump transitioned to his Q&A session, which was seen below in this clip. He confirmed that 25% tariffs on Canada and Mexico will begin today, March 4th. Markets had been hoping that these tariffs were delayed again.
So we're going April 2nd, but very importantly, tomorrow tariffs 25% on Canada and 25% on Mexico, and that'll start. So they're going to have a tariff. So what they have to do is build their car plants, frankly, and other things in the United States, in which case they have no tariffs. In other words,
so he's trying to force all of these, major markets essentially to move here in the U.S. Canada and Mexico have to move into the U.S. That way they have zero tariffs. Like, this is trying to create that job opportunity in the U.S. and try to build the, economy in the U.S. The issue here that nobody's really kind of realizing, or at least, some people are, which is why a lot of people are actually selling, is that this is causing a lot of tension. This is causing a lot of, economic pressure as well, which is why we're starting to see the markets react in the way that they are. So when we think about what's happening here, this is painful, short term. There's no way around it, right? Like, this is short-term pain. But is all of this just noise? Like the last few times that we've heard about the tariffs? I do think that it is. Now, here we actually have, and it got even worse after the following. On the tariffs, is there any room left for Canada and Mexico to make a deal before midnight? He said no room left for Mexico or for Canada. No, the tariffs, that are all set, they go into effect tomorrow, which I don't think that you guys need me to play this clip. In the middle of President Trump's announcement, the Wall Street Journal published a report on Ukraine. The report said that Trump administration has officially stopped financing new weapon sales to Ukraine. Reuters also reported that the U.S. is preparing a plan to loosen sanctions on Russia. Minutes later, the White House said President Trump signed an executive order to raise tariffs on China to 20%. This puts China tariffs up to 20 percentage points in 2 months. By comparison, it took Trump 2 years to raise tariffs this much on China during his first term. Meanwhile, crypto markets sold off sharply as there have been no additional details about the U.S. crypto reserve. Between the market open today and the low just now, crypto erased nearly $300 billion in market cap. the majority of yesterday's gains have been erased. In fact, Ethereum has now erased all of its post-crypto reserve announcement gains. Prior to Sunday's announcement, Ethereum was trading as low as 2170. It just fell to a new low of 2094, or 3.5% below the level seen prior to President Trump's announcement on Sunday. And to top it all off, the Atlanta Fed's GDP estimate fell deep into contraction territory. They just revised their Q1 2025 GDP growth estimate lower again from 1.5% on February 28th to negative 2.8% today. This estimate has now dropped from 3.9% positive to negative 2.8% in 4 weeks. As the trade war ramps up, the U.S. average tariffs rate is set to rise to levels not seen since the Great Depression. Currently, the U.S. average effective tariff rate is set to rise as high as 20%. This does not even include the potential 100% tariff on BRICS countries. With that said, we expect more volatility with opportunity to trade it. Now, yeah, listen, if you are a trader, this is great. But at the end of the day, you know, we are waiting for some growth to happen around the altcoin market. And this just causes a lot of panic. It causes a lot of pressure. I mean, when we hear these levels that haven't been hit or seen since the Great Depression, it causes concern. It causes the markets to bleed heavily. And this isn't even the worst of it, right? We know on the 7th, there's Broadcom earnings, jobs reports, Powell's speech as well. We can actually see that this is tomorrow. Tariffs, aka today. So this is today. We get those tariffs. The new imports from Canada, Mexico, and China are due to take effect. Earnings, Target, AutoZone, Best Buy due to, report before the bell. CrowdStrike also, by the way. Wednesday, March 5th, data, services PMI from S&P and also ISM. The Fed beige book, also happens on March 5th. Earnings from Campbell's and Abercrombie and Fitch. Again, there's just a whole bunch of earnings reports from a lot of companies. Data as well, U.S. productivity, more earnings. And then, of course, we do have Fed speakers on March 6th. And then March 7th is the big one. Because, again, we get more jobs reports, which lands at 8:30 a.m., about an hour before the open. And then we get speakers. So Jerome Powell is due to speak at 12:30 p.m. on the economic outlook. This is one thing that everyone should focus on because also on March 7th, we do have the Crypto Summit meeting on the 7th. Guys, this week is going to be extremely volatile. I want you guys to be prepared for this. You might, call it clickbait. You want to call it whatever you want. I don't care what you call it. We should be prepared for max volatility this week. There is so much happening here between the trade war, between earnings, between the jobs report, between, the Fed speaking, and now a crypto summit. There is not a more volatile environment for crypto than right now. So I want you guys to be prepared because this could get worse before it gets better. I just want you guys to be aware of that. So with that being said, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys definitely leave a like, subscribe, turn notifications on. If you guys want free content, you guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord down in the description below. And with that being said, guys, it's been Nick. Thanks for watching. Peace out.